For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a teacher, right? It was on my middle school yearbook. I loved it. But what happens when you need a break, right? What happens when you need a change of pace? What happens when you outgrow a blessing? If you're someone who has considered leaving the classroom, join me as I talk about my testimony. Back to my channel. I'm Jessica, and my channel is all things self-care, beauty, and lifestyle. So if that's your vibe, subscribe. So why did I start teaching? Ever since I was young, there were two things I loved. I loved helping people, and I also loved just learning things. I remember asking for a book for Christmas. I remember just being a philosophy major in college because I loved just learning. And so I felt like teaching was that profession that can help me combine both of those passions. When you're a teacher, you're also a mentor. And I remember just being very quiet, very soft-spoken as a kid. And I wanted to be a teacher who also made sure that every student was seen. They weren't just like another head in the classroom. They were someone who was seen. They were someone who was affirmed. And so that's something that I wanted to do as a teacher. So because of that, I started teaching at the age of 21. So right out of college, I started teaching. I started teaching as a special education teacher. I taught middle school. I taught elementary school, then middle school. And so for a while, teaching brought me a lot of joy. I felt like I was also always learning to reinvent myself. I always thought of myself as like a quiet and timid person. And I feel like teaching really brought me out of my shell. It made me learn how to interact with new people. It made me learn how to be more personable so I can like connect with my students. And while I love teaching, I started to realize that something needed to change, right? So one of the first things one of my most earlier memories, I remember I would have like a neighbor, and he would always ask me, "Oh, how are you doing? How are you doing?" And my response would always be, "I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired," to my neighbor. And so he says, "You're always tired." And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually am. Like, this is crazy." And how does someone who barely knows me, he's just my neighbor, he just sees me on the elevator, he's able to name that like I'm exhausted? And I feel like for the last couple of years that I was teaching, I was exhausted. Going home, exhausted, despite my self-care efforts, despite me making a point to take days off, I was still drained. The process of when you're an educator and you care so much, sometimes you can't leave the building with the job half done. You feel like you have to make sure everything is done to a T, but that also comes at the cost of being exhausted all the time. And as educators, there's something that's called compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is when you care so much that it's to your detriment. And because I cared so much about like every single little thing, about like their growth, their reading growth, like about report cards, about the classroom bulletin board, because I cared so much about everything, it was draining me. On top of the different responsibilities that I was getting as a teacher. Something else I realized too was alignment. So something that a Bible verse that always sticks with me is you can't serve two masters. And so I can't say I'm about something, but in real life not be about that life. Okay. And so something that I always talk about is self-care. Like, y'all know, I consider myself the Beyonce of self-care. Okay. And so I always talk about self-care, about putting yourself first. But my day-to-day reality wasn't me putting myself first. My day-to-day reality was me running out of my house at 6:30 a.m. in the morning to go teach, coming back, being exhausted, taking a nap, to lesson plan, and then go to sleep and do it all again. So while I was saying I was all about self-care, my actions weren't in line to what I actually wanted, right? My actions wasn't a life of Eve. It was a life of rush. It was a life of stress. It was a life of burnout. It was not a life that was aligned with what I actually wanted. I also realized something needed to change when I started to make teaching my identity, right? I had been teaching. So I started teaching when I was 21. And so I was teaching for like 1/3 of my life, right? I was teaching for 11 years. And I started to think like being a teacher was who I was, and it's not. Like, it's not who you are. I felt like through my quiet time with God showed me that like, this is something that you did like when you were younger, and this is one blessing that you walk with, and it's okay to outgrow a blessing. It's okay to decide, all right, I've done this for several years, now I'm ready to step into a new era. And I feel like God was showing me that like you are more than just a teacher, you can wear many different hats. And so I started to think about like, what will my life look like when I'm outside of teaching? Another reason why I knew it was time to leave is because I didn't have enough time for the things that brought me joy, right? So I love creating content. I'm on Instagram, TikTok. So please make sure you follow me on those platforms. But it got to a point where I felt like I wasn't in a space to create the content that I felt moved to create. If you have ideas on your mind, it's not there by accident. God gave it to you, right? And so when you're busy, busy under Satan's yoke, when you're busy, right, you don't have time to put out the ideas that God has put on your mind. And I feel like because I was always so busy and drained, I didn't have time for my content. I didn't have time to put out things as much as I wanted to, right? I didn't have time to record as many videos. And I felt like because I was burnt out in one area, this area was affecting my ability to do other things, to work on my calling, to work on like things that I felt passionately about. And I don't think that one area of your life should really dictate everything else. How did I make that change? I feel like that's such like a multifaceted question, but the first thing I did was I prayed. I feel like when you are in your emotions can make you think rashly. It can make you do things that are really against your better judgment or might not be the best in the long run. And I prayed often. And I prayed a lot. And through prayer, God revealed to me that like I needed to stay in the classroom one more year to make sure that my finances were in order, to make sure that I was really thinking critically about the roles that I wanted, to make sure that like I had everything squared away, like my certification, all these things, right? Because sometimes as teachers, we tend to think the summer is all we have to prepare. And it's like, no, you can actually like use the year to prepare you. And I feel like the last year, he also made me frustrated on purpose, because like frustration, anger, all those emotions are emotions that are transformational. So by nature of me being frustrated, being angry, like during my last year of teaching, I was also subconsciously telling myself that I needed to change. I can't just stick it out for another year. I need to change, and I need to quickly make this career pivot happen. Something else that I did was I created a vision board. I'm a vision board girly. If you have not checked out my vision board video, I'll link it down below. But I think vision boards are really pivotal when you are entering a new level in your life, when you have a new goal. If you are a 12-week year advocate and you love to like break up your goals in 3 months, I feel like vision boards are perfect. And something that I did was I started to think about like, well, what do I want my life to look like? It's not just a question of just having a job. Like whatever job I have needs to be in service of the life that I want. So I made a point to make sure that I had a vision board and I was journaling about the life that I wanted, right? I also created a resource for burnt out educators who are considering leaving the profession. So again, this decision is not something that comes lightly. It's something that you have to think through critically, right? So I created this resource to help you just think through whether or not like you're ready to leave the classroom, just different mindset shifts you should be aware of. And it also includes just different tips about the job hunt process, different things that I did to position myself so that I was able to get a job after leaving the classroom. So be sure to grab yours if you're someone who's considering leaving the classroom, or if you know someone who is considering leaving the classroom as well. It's linked down below. So what am I doing now? I'm living my best life. Okay. But I would just say like everyone has said, Jessica, you are glowing. Jessica, you look different. Like happiness looks good on you. Not that I wasn't taking care of myself before, but like there's a noticeable change because I'm pouring into myself. So right now I currently work at an ed tech company. And many former teachers work at ed tech companies because just because you don't want to be in a classroom doesn't mean that you want to be away from education. You still want to impact students. You still want to make a difference. And that's one of the ways that you're able to do that. So I'm currently working at an ed tech company, and it's a different change of pace. It's definitely nice. And I know I always wanted my slow mornings. I wanted to be able to be hybrid, and that's something that I have now. And I feel like, it's all because of God, because I prayed, because he told me to wait, because he just made sure that I was fully prepared to handle this role that I have now. So it's funny because it took me a long time to record this video, but I feel like God was like, it's now or never. But if you're someone who is burnt out, if you're a burnt out educator, I'm not telling you to leave the classroom. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that like it's a tough choice. Like it's tough because everyone is different. And if you're a burnt out educator, I see it this way. You have two choices. You can either make sure you are not playing about your self-care so that you are not burnt out, or you can start to explore what life might look like when you're not in the classroom, right? And that choice is entirely up to you. I just wanted to share my testimony with you because I know it can be so intimidating, but on the other side of fear is a new beginning. It's a beautiful chapter. So I just want, if you're someone who's definitely like, I'm tired of the classroom, like I'm burnt out, this is just a reminder that it's never too late to start over. I know that like as educators, we spend years getting our degrees, getting our certifications, so that we're able to teach in the state that we're in. And it can feel like when you step away from the classroom that you're just like kind of leaving that behind, but you're not. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting at a different angle, right? And so never be scared to like start it over, right? If you're someone who's like concerned, I always say pray over it. God will always show you what your next step is. Because it's okay to reinvent yourself. Life is the art of reinventing yourself. And my other message too is it's important to have a plan. Again, God told me I needed to have a plan. I couldn't just be impulsive and just, quit and say like this job is not serving me. No, he told me I needed to have a plan, right? And so part of that plan is what I encompassed in my ebook, right? Part of transitioning out the classroom is being very strategic. You need to just have different things in mind so that you are able to make that transition, should that be what you want to do. But there are different things that you should think about as you're considering making that transition. And so this ebook is really going to help you with that decision should you choose to leave the classroom. All right, y'all. So that was my testimony on why I chose to leave the classroom. And I definitely consider this like me taking a break from the classroom. I can definitely see myself doing it again in the future because I've always loved teaching. It's something that like, you really have to be called to do this work. So who knows? It's just a break. I'm not saying I'm leaving forever, but I just know for now in this chapter of my life, I decided to leave the classroom. So if you have any questions about my journey, feel free to comment below. If you were moved by this testimony piece, feel free to comment below as well. Or if you want to see any other type of content related to my teacher career pivot process, any other Q&As, please let me know as well. And if you stay to the end, we are besties. So go ahead, hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Catch you guys next time.